Hey everybody, William Wallis here, William Wallis for America on my show. And as you know, one of the things I like to do is introduce the public to people that are running for office and people that are in office so that we can not only get to know them and get to know their positions, but talk about what that position does, because I really truly believe that when the community knows our elected officials better and knows what they're doing, we can be more involved and be able to make positive differences in our community. And here with me today is Joe Marino, who is now a state rep and he's running for judge here, but I'm gonna let him tell more about that because I think it's really important to get to know Joe. Joe, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, William.
So tell me, what is it exactly you are running for? And I want everybody to really listen to this because a lot of the campaign signs just say judge, but they don't realize the differences. And when I want you to understand what position it is that he's running for, it's not just judge.
Right. So Second Parish Court is the seat I'm running for. It covers the people who will be voting in this is everyone who lives on the west bank of Jefferson Parish, which includes everywhere starting in Terrytown. We've got Grand Isle, we've got Wagaman, we've got Avondale.
You go all the way down the Grand Isle?
All the way, the Lafitte. We've got the entire west bank of Jefferson Parish will be voting in this election. Second Parish Court handles misdemeanors, DWIs, traffic, and civil claims under 20,000. So a lot of people are going to go through that court at any given time. You're going to see a lot more people in a parish court than you would in a district court as a judge.
Now, I've interviewed other judge candidates. How does the Second Parish Court relate to the 24th? There's a bunch of races going on the 24th right now. What's the difference between the two?
Well, like I said, the parish court is limited in the type of cases. The criminal cases that go through parish court are only going to be misdemeanors, whereas your district court handles felonies. And then the district court handles all other types of matters. We don't do domestic, we don't do bankruptcy, we don't do any type of civil case over with a limit over 20,000. That'll be held in the district court.
Okay, so that's the biggest difference is would it be felonies?
It's more limited jurisdiction over here, and felonies on the criminal side, correct.
Before I forget, it's Second Parish Court.
Right.
But I want to point out that building is right behind us.
Right.
So for anybody watching the video, that's the Second Parish Courthouse right there behind us. So we got a great view of it today, and so you can take a peek at it while we're here. So if you're ever in the Gretna area, you'll know which building it is. So is the Second Parish Court actually part of the 24th? Is it like a subset of the 24th?
No, it's a parish court. It's similar to like a city court.
Okay.
There's two here. It's two divisions on this side, two divisions on the east bank, which would be First Parish. So
it's First Parish on the east bank, Second Parish on the west
Correct.
bank. Now you had mentioned that that there's only 4 courts like this in the state?
There are only 4 parish courts in the state. I think one is in Ascension. I'm not remembering where the other one is. But I mean, it's very similar to city courts that are all around our state. They have a similar jurisdiction.
Is that because we have a bigger population in Jefferson Parish that we have a?
Yeah, I'd have to go into the history of it to figure out why. But I mean, there's a high volume of cases that are going to go through these parish courts.
And that's what I was kind of getting to with it being a high volume.
Right.
So it's going to take somebody with a lot of experience to not only handle this court, but to handle the volume of cases that are going to go through it. And you seem to have that experience, and I want to ask you about that. What is it that sets you apart? What gives you that experience that you think?
Right. So I've been practicing longer than anyone else that's running for this race. I've been practicing for 28 years, and the majority of my time has been in courtrooms. I've done a tremendous amount of motion trial practice. I've tried a lot of judge trials. I've tried a lot of jury trials. And basically my entire career has been spent inside of courtrooms for 28 years. So we're talking about thousands of hearings, thousands of matters that I've done in court. I've also practiced all around the state. I've practiced in front of every judge in Jefferson Parish. I've practiced in many different jurisdictions, and I'm very familiar with dockets and court management. In addition, I serve in the legislature on the Judiciary Committee and the Criminal Justice Committee. And when we were doing criminal justice reform, we looked at different justice systems across our entire state, across the country, to compare and contrast, what works. And so I've spent a lot of time, preparing for being able to run a docket and move and effectively move a docket. And I know, and I've got a lot of good ideas about how to keep our court moving along, get the people in and out of our court, and not have cases linger in any way.
So let's talk about the positions that you've also held, because now it sounds like you've got a lot of courtroom experience, a lot of trial experience that sets you apart, from others that, but it sets you apart. But you've got a lot of community service experience too. What other positions have you held? Right.
So prior to being elected, the first elected position I had was with the Gretna City Council. I served there starting in 2013. Before I did that, I was a volunteer on the Historic District Advisory Committee. I was the chairman of the committee for 8 years. I've been a board member on the West Bank Boys and Girls Club. I've always been very active in the community, donating my time is the way I like to say it, because like even on the city council, I took on the task when I was there as one of the only lawyers that were on the council to revisit and revise our entire code of ordinances in Gretna. So it was a 2-year project, but I think it was in 2015 we passed an entirely updated Gretna Code of Ordinances, all 792 pages of it.
Oh wow!
And then and again, going into the first year as a legislator, it's when the governor wanted to do criminal justice reform, and I've got a lot of experience in that field, and I got very heavily involved, and I quickly became one of the lead negotiators in the whole reform package for both the House and the Senate as a rookie. In fact, a lot of senators, when I would come over to the Senate side and I'm handling 200 pages worth of bills, they're looking at me like, who are you? We've never met you before.
Exactly.
And but I mean, it was a great learning experience working with all the parties involved. What a lot of people don't understand is that we had a task force the year before I came in that was comprised of judges, prosecutors, sheriffs, law enforcement, the faith-based community, the business community, and they studied and looked at criminal justice reform that had gone on in 30 other states prior to us, and they made a series of recommendations for bills. So when I came in, we already had the bills already there,
right, all right.
But they needed somebody to continually negotiate and work with all of these groups. We brought everybody to the table, and we met daily. And in the end, we were able to move all 10 bills through, which are very positive for our state.
So not only, what I'm hearing too, is not only did you bring, it was like, 300 pages you said on these bills?
Easily 200.
Easily 200. Not only did you bring all of this together, and I'm using those number of pages as an example of a volume of work that you did, but you did it between the House side and the Senate side, while at the same time, what I picked up on, I don't know if the listeners picked up on this, is that you also got involved with seeing what other states were doing, because it takes that amount of research to pull together to be able to come up with a good bill or a good, good legislation. So, and then you took your community experience side and all of your trial experience side in a courtroom and used that, for these same bills that went through our legislature.
Yeah, I think very early on, when we would go into the meetings, I would come up with questions or concerns about, well, if we do this, how is this going to affect this law, and this law, and if we do this, what about this? Because I mean, I could speak with on the parole and the probation side because I've done a lot of work there. I could talk about sentencing, and really one of the things that people don't really pick up on that we did the most on the criminal justice reform is concentrating on the rehabilitation side as opposed to just incarceration.
Right.
Because if we're not addressing, the how or why people are there, or not working on substance abuse, mental health issues, or any other things that got people into the system, then we're just warehousing them, releasing them, and then welcoming them back within 3 years.
I want to point out something I learned from other judges. I'm hoping that my listeners remember this from the other interviews, is that a lot of people think in terms of when it comes to criminals, just locking them up, throwing away the key, getting them off the street. but the way the system is, some of those people end up back on the street simply because of jail terms and prison sentencing and stuff. But you've kind of taken another step from your experiences to find ways that you figure out a system that keeps the bad ones in jail, and finds a system that helps put the good ones, get the good ones back out, and in a system that monitors them to where you're still being tough, on the criminals, but our tax dollars are also being spent wisely too.
That's exactly right. I mean, if you look at all the bills that we did, about 99% of the changes we made involve only nonviolent offenders. We didn't make any significant changes at all with regards to violent offenses or sex offenses. And the majority of the people that go through the system are nonviolent offenders. So absolutely, there are people that need to be incarcerated, need to be separated, need to be punished, need to be in jail. But what we were doing in Louisiana, which a lot of people are aware of, is we're incarcerating nonviolent offenders at a rate of like 3 times that of our neighboring states, and we're not doing any type of rehabilitation. We're not really properly, supervising them. We've got probation and parole officers that should be supervising 50 people at a time, supervising 150, and so we're really missing out on the way we're doing it as far as best practices.
So some of this sounds almost like a way to manage our tax dollars better in some ways too.
Well, we reinvest the money too. I mean, when you lower the prison population and you're looking at alternatives to incarceration, you're saving those tax dollars and you're reinvesting it, and that's part of it. What we did, you're reinvesting in victim services, you're reinvesting in rehabilitative programs, reentry programs. And we're going to continue, as we see right now. We've already have in Louisiana, according to the FBI, the UCR crime stats, we've seen significant decreases from violent crime from 16 to 19. So we're going to continue to lower our population, incarcerate the people that need to be there, but invest in programs and services that help people, get back on their feet and stay out. Because you want them out of the system. You don't want them to keep cycling through. And we're doing a much better job.
That's important to note that you're looking to bring more aspects of the criminal justice system together, to be smart about not only putting away the bad people, but putting our tax dollars to even help victims. And that's another way to look at it, on this. If you mentioned the legislature, you mentioned your public service. Can I ask you, Republican, Democrat, which side are you on, so people in the audience will know?
Right. I've always been independent. Starting way back in I think '99 is when I registered as independent. I really have always believed in voting for a person and not a party. I didn't change when I became elected to the city council. I didn't change when I ran for the legislature or when I ran for re-election in the legislature. And actually, I believe it's really an asset to me in the legislature because I'm able to work as an independent. Because I'm able to work with both sides. My first year in the legislature, the Republicans and the Democrats invited me to every caucus meeting and every meeting they had, I think because they were trying to recruit me to join their team. But it was very interesting to hear both sides actually talking about the same issues from a completely different perspective. But I mean, being an independent has allowed me to pass a majority of the bills that I've filed because I can work with each group, and it allows me to focus more on the issue and not the party or who's bringing.
So you're able to listen to both sides, and on an impartial basis, you're able to kind of pull together aspects of both sides to make a bill that would be happier for everybody.
I mean, one of the biggest complaints I have about the legislature, and it's not probably a lot different than what goes on in Washington, is the partisanship really breaks down our ability to communicate and discuss and exchange ideas and debate. It's more of this is what we're doing and this is what they're doing, and they're talking at each other as opposed to each other. So one of the things that I've always tried to do is if I've got a question about a bill, I just go to the bill author. And if I want to, I go to the people in the House who I think are the most knowledgeable on the subject matter, because it's impossible to know everything about every bill you're voting on.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of people come to me when it has anything to do with courts and either in criminal justice. But I go to the individual and I ask them the questions that I have. And because of that, I like to, jokingly say I'm not the natural enemy of either side.
Right.
So I have the ability to do that. The tough part, though, is actually getting elected without a party. You don't have any kind of party support, any kind of party backing or endorsements.
Right.
And but I'm very fortunate, in this race, just like the other races. If you follow my history, I've had an equal amount of Republican and Democratic elected officials that are with me, and it's never changed.
And I think that's important. Everybody knows where I am on my, with party, but as someone, in the media of my show, I try to find that, I try to be impartial in my interviews, because I think doing that, being impartial, is the best way to bring out just facts about people, and that way we let the people decide based on either their view of the facts or their party, or however they want to do that.
Right.
But I think it's important to note that as an independent, that impartiality could be something that you could bring to the bench.
Well, I think it's more important on the bench than anywhere else. If you think about it, the number one thing you want to have is you want to have fair and impartial justice, and you want an independent judge. That's what I've got I think a much more thorough and better understanding of the criminal justice system and our legal system, and even with Second Parish Court. I've served on a committee that's studying how we are going to fund courts. It's called the Judicial System Funding Committee. So we're looking at how do courts fund themselves, and part of that, that task force, which I volunteered to be on, involves Second Parish Court and judges in city courts coming in, talking about their operational costs, how they function, where do they get their money, where do they spend their money. Same thing on the district court level, because eventually what we want to do, in the big picture is, we don't want to fund a branch of government through fines and court costs. We want the judicial branch, to be funded through the legislature or some other source, other than relying on people that come into court to pay fines and court costs in order to keep the court operational.
Right.
It also takes the court out of the equation too. With the judges have to collect enough fines and court costs to operate their court right now. It's not a good system.
So and that impartiality looks at that too.
I've looked at how other states do it. I've looked at other counties and other jurisdictions. Or we've even studied some of the things and practices in other countries as far as how they operate their courts. We went to Norway and saw a prison that operates. It doesn't even really seem like a prison the way they run it. But that was not on taxpayer dollars, I'll tell you that. But I did make that trip.
No, that's what I'm saying. That seems how passionate you are about the community, how passionate you are about the justice system.
Right.
How important it is to make sure that you bring not only knowledge, but experience and impartiality that a court needs.
Yeah, and I have, and my experience is pretty vast as well as far as, teaching. Because I'm rated AV, which is the highest rating you can get amongst your peers in the legal community. AV means you have the highest possible rating for legal ability and ethics. And with that rating, I get asked to speak a lot at continuing legal education seminars. I also, for over 15 years, I've taught at 3 different police academies, Kenner, Westwego, and Gretna. And I teach police officers procedure. I teach them the law. I teach them courtroom procedure. I teach them courtroom testimony. And then I also have been asked to guest lecture at both Tulane and Loyola Law Schools, talking about courtroom procedure and just the practice of law in general to law students. So a lot of that, and I also, like I jokingly tell my law partner, and I also practice law for a living.
When you're not being a public servant, and you're not studying what other courts are doing to be able how to make our courts more perfect. Right. You also practice law.
Yeah, that's actually what I call my paying job.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think people realize that state reps have a $17,000 a year salary, and it's about 5 or 6 months of being in Baton Rouge. I don't think they really see that part.
I've said this in a lot of the videos when I talk to the state reps, that the state rep position, is a full-time job for less than part-time pay.
Yeah.
So it really is more about community service,
Right.
Than anything. And
Right.
so, and you're out, and so now your main job has been focusing on that while you've been doing community service, while you're now preparing for this job. And what makes this job as judge, what makes this desirable for you?
Right.
Is there a passion behind it?
Yeah, it is. And to be able to continue to serve the public in the court, to handle the court, which is one of the most high volume courts in the parish, you're going to be able to impact the most people. You can help the most people. I can move your case through quickly and efficiently if it's a civil matter. We can move your case through, a criminal case through. I've got a lot of ideas about maybe running more than one docket a day. They're already converting to paperless, which is good because for a long time, Division A was a paper court.
Yeah.
And then while in the legislature, I passed the bills that allow most of what we're doing in the whole state right now for video conferencing with court appearances.
Yeah, the Zoom meetings.
In 2017, I passed a bill to allow video conferencing for a lot of different court procedures that we didn't have a law to allow that. And I want to take that even further on the bench. I want to allow attorneys to do pretrial conferences remotely, even after COVID. There's no reason not to. It's very efficient. It's very quick. We can get people. I don't want lawyers or the public sitting and waiting around in my court. I want to be able to handle that case.
Get in and get out.
Get it in and get out. Right.
Well, yeah, this position actually was not available a year, 2 years ago, was it?
Right.
Didn't this judge just retire?
Yeah, he's Judge Cassio, who's a really great judge, is unable to run again because of age restrictions. Incidentally, I did vote against that when it came into legislature. I voted in favor of removing the age restriction on judges. I don't really understand why a judge is not qualified to serve after the age of 70. Which when you look at it, most of the judges, once they actually retire and they can't run again, the Supreme Court will appoint them to sit somewhere. So, in the same courts, in the same places. And we're losing a lot of good experience.
A lot of good experience.
From our judge here. But it just so happens that his term is coming to an end. He's not able to qualify again. So, starting in January, I hope to be sitting.
Right over there over our shoulder in Second Parish Court.
And doing a good job for the people.
Well, I would like to ask everybody to please, watch not only if you got to this point you've already watched it, but to share the video with other people. This next election, I'm doing a series of videos for everything that's going to be on the ballot for this next election, and interviewing everybody that's on the ballot in order to be able to help inform our public. And I think this information here is very good because not only pertaining to you, Joe, but also anybody, these questions that we ask are things that people can ask any candidate running for any judgeship or any elected official, any elected office.
Right.
About the experience. Do you have any final thoughts to share with us?
Well, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come out here and interview me. When we wrap up here, I'm going to be hopping in my car to drive back to Baton Rouge because I have a bill that's on the floor today. And I'm going to be driving back and forth while we're in special session, and practicing law. But I appreciate this opportunity. I'm very fortunate that if you do go to my site, you can see that most of the elected officials in the parish are supporting me. And it's not partisan in any way.
You've got people on both sides endorsing you.
Yeah, I have independents, I have Republicans, I have Democrats, but like I said, it's most of the elected officials in the entire parish across both parties are with me, and the Alliance for Good Government. I'm very proud to have their endorsement again for this race, and that means something to me.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a good endorsement to have.
Right.
That they actually are watchdogs for our community.
Right.
So it says a lot. Well, Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you, William.
And appreciate your time. And everybody, please share the video. And like I said, remember those elections. And there's 7 constitutional amendments also on the ballot.
Yep.
So get to know them all. Thank you so much, and have a great day, guys.
Thank you.